Bullseye Movies Recap Channel brings you Landman Season Finale. Andy Garcia's arrival in Landman Season 2 was one of the most talked about creative decisions in the series so far, and for good reason. His character, Gallino, injected a level of danger, sophistication, and unpredictability that instantly elevated the show's dramatic tension. Yet despite how impactful Gallino proved to be, his long-term role in the series remains shrouded in uncertainty as Landman looks ahead to its third season. This ambiguity feels fitting for a show that thrives on instability, power struggles, and the constant reshuffling of alliances in the ruthless world of oil, money, and influence. From the very beginning, Landman has presented itself as a series where nothing stays fixed for long. Characters rise and fall, fortunes shift overnight, and the balance of power is perpetually in flux. Taylor Sheridan's neo-Western drama, set against the harsh and unforgiving backdrop of West Texas oil country, has always emphasized that survival depends on adaptability. Loyalties are temporary, morality is flexible, and the line between legitimate business and criminal enterprise is often so thin it may as well not exist. Within this morally gray environment, Gallino's presence felt not only appropriate but necessary. Season 2 expanded the show's scope significantly, both in terms of narrative ambition and the scale of its conflicts. While Billy Bob Thornton's Tommy Norris remained the emotional and strategic center of the series, the introduction of Gallino added a new axis around which the story could rotate. As a Cuban-American mobster with deep ties to cartel operations, Gallino embodied the kind of shadowy power that Landman had previously hinted at but never fully explored. He was not just another wealthy investor or corporate shark. He was someone who operated beyond conventional rules, using the oil business as a front for laundering money and consolidating criminal influence. Throughout Season 2, the oil industry was depicted not merely as a battleground for profit, but as a convergence point for legal maneuvering, personal vendettas, and organized crime. Gallino's ability to move seamlessly between these worlds made him both fascinating and terrifying. On the surface, he appeared to be a polished, composed businessman, capable of negotiating massive financial deals with ease. Beneath that veneer, however, lay a ruthless figure deeply entangled with cartel operations, someone whose generosity came at an unspoken but unmistakable cost. The Season 2 finale crystallized Gallino's importance in spectacular fashion. After spending much of the season struggling to keep his footing, Tommy found himself on the brink of professional annihilation when he was abruptly cut loose by M-Tex. Losing his position threatened not only his livelihood, but his identity. For a man whose sense of self is so closely tied to his ability to negotiate, manipulate, and outmaneuver powerful interests, being sidelined was tantamount to defeat. Rather than accepting his fate, Tommy pivoted, once again demonstrating the instincts that have kept him alive in an industry that devours the unprepared. His unlikely salvation came in the form of Gallino, the very man he had spent much of the season trying to avoid. This irony was not lost on viewers. Tommy's reluctance to work with Gallino had been rooted in a reasonable fear of becoming entangled with cartel money, a fear that reflected his lingering desire to believe there were still lines he would not cross. Yet desperation has a way of eroding principles, and the finale made it clear that survival often demands compromise. By creating a new venture, CTT Oil Exploration and Cattle, Tommy effectively reset the board. The move was bold, risky, and emblematic of his character. Rather than simply accepting defeat at the hands of M-Tex, he found a way to outmaneuver them, securing a massive $62 million investment from Gallino in the process. While a substantial portion of that money, $44 million, was earmarked to reimburse M-Tex for land leases, the remaining $18 million represented something far more significant. That sum gave Tommy and his new company the freedom to drill their own wells, reclaiming a degree of independence that seemed impossible just moments earlier. The deal was not merely a financial transaction, it was a declaration of intent. Tommy was not done, and he was willing to walk into morally murky territory to prove it. This development raises pressing questions about Gallino's future role in Landman Season 3. On one hand, Tommy's earlier efforts to distance himself from Gallino suggest that their partnership was never meant to be comfortable or permanent. The threat posed by Gallino's cartel connections is real, and the consequences of crossing such a figure could be catastrophic. From a narrative standpoint, it would make sense for Tommy to continue viewing Gallino as a dangerous necessity rather than a trusted ally. On the other hand, the finale firmly positioned Gallino as the figure who rescued Tommy from professional oblivion. In classic dramatic fashion, Gallino arrived not as a villain but as a savior, albeit one whose help comes with strings attached. This duality is what makes the character so compelling. He is neither purely antagonist nor straightforward benefactor. Instead, he exists in that uncomfortable space where gratitude and fear coexist. The confirmation that Andy Garcia will return in Season 3 strongly suggests that Gallino's story is far from over. Viewers have not yet seen the full scope of his ambitions, nor the true cost of accepting his money. If anything, the finale felt less like a conclusion and more like the opening move in a much larger chess match. By aligning himself with Gallino, Tommy has secured short-term survival at the potential expense of long-term stability. From a creative perspective, this is excellent news for the series. Garcia's performance brought a sense of gravitas and menace that Season 2 sometimes lacked. While the show flirted with melodrama at times, Gallino's presence anchored the narrative in something darker and more grounded. His scenes carried the weight of classic mob cinema, evoking the quiet intensity and simmering threat associated with films like The Godfather. It was a reminder that Landman is at its best when it embraces its darker impulses rather than softening them. Season 2, for all its strengths, was often criticized for feeling slower and less urgent than the first season. The stakes, while still significant, lacked the immediacy and volatility that initially defined the series. Conflicts simmered rather than exploded, and the sense of danger occasionally felt muted. Gallino's involvement, however, promises to reverse that trend. His ties to cartel warfare open the door to storylines that are inherently volatile, unpredictable, and high-risk. The oil business may serve as the setting, but the real conflict will likely stem from the collision of corporate ambition and organized crime. For Tommy, this means navigating a partnership that could elevate him to unprecedented heights, or destroy him completely. The balance he must strike between pragmatism and self-preservation will test him in ways the series has only begun to explore. Ultimately, the uncertainty surrounding Gallino's fate is part of what makes his character so effective. His continued presence ensures that Landman retains the edge and intensity that viewers crave.